This is VOA News. I'm Scott Walterman. More Israeli attacks on Gaza after a night of heavy air and ground strikes. The United Nations message to Israel simple: enough is enough. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has wrapped up his latest trip to the Middle East, leaving Turkey for Japan on Monday.
As he wrapped up a grueling diplomatic tour,
all of this is a work in progress.
Blinken was trying to build a regional consensus for humanitarian pauses in Israel's Gaza campaign. In Israel, Jordan, the West Bank, Cyprus, Iraq, and finally Turkey.
We don't obviously agree on everything, but there are common views on some of the imperatives of the moment.
The U.S. hopes pauses can allow more aid into Gaza and more hostages out. It's also pushing Israel to minimize civilian casualties there. The Hamas-run health ministry says the fighting's already killed more than 10,000 Palestinians. Casualties are likely to rise as Israeli troops prepare to enter Gaza City. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Hamas is a U.S. designated terrorist group. Former U.S. President Donald Trump was sworn in to testify on Monday in a New York civil fraud trial that threatens to diminish his real estate empire that built his reputation before he entered politics. The former U.S. president, like his two adult sons who testified last week, will likely face pointed questions about the questionable accounting practices that the judge has already ruled to be fraudulent. New York State lawyers argue those methods enabled him to win favorable financing terms by pumping up the prices of his properties. They say such activity earned him $100 million and exaggerated his wealth by $2 billion. This is VOA News. German restaurants fear closures as pandemic tax breaks go off menu. Chef Omar Ben Hamo from Lilia restaurant.
The sector is still hurt from the pandemic, and then it wasn't just the pandemic, also the whole situation in the world right now, Ukraine-Russia war, now in the Middle East, and everything affects, food and transport and oil, and it's a chain.
The German Hotel and Restaurant Association believes as many as 12,000 businesses could close if the tax goes back up. The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments in a challenge to a 1994 law prohibiting people facing domestic violence restraining orders from having guns. Tuesday's case is the first involving guns to reach the justices since last year's landmark decision expanding U.S. gun rights. Turkish journalist Tolga Sardan was released from prison on Monday pending trial. He was jailed under the so-called disinformation law. A Turkish court ordered Sardan's detention last week after the Istanbul Chief Prosecutor's Office opened an investigation into his reporting on the judicial system and the Turkish National Intelligence Agency. The Voice of America monitors the freedom of the press globally. Check out the website voanews.com/press-freedom. South Korea hoping to keep an eye on its neighbor in the north by launching a new spy satellite. More now from VOA's Alexis Strope.
South Korea says it plans to launch its first domestically built spy satellite at the end of this month as part of its effort to better monitor rival North Korea. The plan was unveiled days after North Korea failed to follow through on its vow to make a third attempt to launch its own reconnaissance satellite in October. South Korea's defense ministry said Monday that the country's first military spy satellite will be launched from California's Vandenberg Air Force Base on November 30th. Under a contract with SpaceX, South Korea plans to launch 4 more spy satellites by 2025. I'm Alexis Strope, VOA News.
Ahead of an expected meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden and China's President Xi Jinping next week in San Francisco, a U.S. think tank says data it has collected from 24 countries shows the American leader is winning the battle for public opinion. The Pew Research Center says it surveyed 30,000 adults in 24 countries about their attitudes to the world's 2 largest economies and their leadership. People in 23 countries tend to see U.S. President Biden more positively. I'm Scott Walterman, VOA News.
Thank you for watching. Can you do me a favor? Please leave a comment in the comments section below. That would really help. Thank you, and see you again soon.